Hey, what's shaking? It's Alex Greenwood, host of PR After Hours here on Anchor FM. I've been podcasting off and on since 2006, and I've got to tell you something. Back in the old days when it was all stone knives and bear skins and a string and Dixie cups, podcasting was a real challenge. Fast forward to today, and it's still got a lot of challenges, especially for folks who don't have time to set up a home studio or go to a studio or things like that. So I found Anchor FM and I love it, love it, love it for how easy it is to create my own podcast here on this channel called PR After Hours. I love how you can put everything together so simply right from your desktop or your phone. And there's so many great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your pod right there. And I just can't recommend that part alone enough. Also, though, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from this too with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. That's the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And we'll see you back at PR After Hours. Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. I'm always looking for good tools to help me do my job, and whether you're a business owner or you're a PR person, it doesn't hurt to kind of put your nose in the air and take a sniff and see what's out there. So I found a great article on Reagan.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. 14 terrific and affordable tools for communicators by Michelle Garrett. And again, I'll put the link in there. But there's a few of these items that I use that I want to talk about. Her favorite social media tool is Buffer. She calls it the crock pot of posting. You can set it up to post for you at any time. Keeps your feed current when you may not be online. Although lately these days, I'm sure a lot of us have a lot of extra time on our hands. But even so, Buffer's pretty good at that. So she might set things for online, for example, overnight on the weekends while you're on vacation. And I like that kind of thing because maybe you want to at least share information with people, if not interact with them directly, obviously, while you're asleep. Well, why would you do that? Well, because a lot of the time while you're asleep, the rest of the world or part of the world is awake. So that's a great thing to use. Buffer's pretty great. She likes MailChimp for her newsletter solution. I do too. It's free for up to 2,000 email addresses, and it's very simple. I like it. It's very plug and play. I agree with her on that. So that's a good one. And, I don't think email is by any means dead, and I think a monthly newsletter is kind of what I shoot for with my clients with their size and their enterprise, but depends on how big your company is and how often you want to try to touch prospects, clients, internal audiences, etc. She likes Grammarly as her writing and editing tool. I like it too. Grammarly is always like this invisible editor over my shoulder when I'm working on stuff. I really like it. I've used premium and I've used the free or not almost free versions, and it's even just the free versions are very good. So I recommend checking out Grammarly as well. On blog posts, particularly, you're always looking for images, right? Well, she likes Unsplash or Pixabay for royalty-free image. Whatever solution you're using, she says, be sure you're selecting only royalty-free images. Don't just Google an image and plug it into your post. You could get sued for that. And there are law firms that are devoted just to that or a chunk of their business. Don't put any images that you cannot link back to and show that they're royalty-free or that you own them. So those are some good solutions for that. Her favorite press release and wire service is mine. She likes PRlog or PR.com. Those are free wire services that can help you get it in on the search engines and boost SEO. I'm not going to tell you with those you're necessarily going to get reporters jumping on what you're doing, but like she said, boosting SEO is part of the game these days. Now, the paid ones I've used a lot for my clients are PR Web or PR Newswire. They're both owned by Cision. Doesn't really matter which one you use, but in general, she recommends using a wire service sparingly and pitching each press release you publish directly to the journalist you're most interested in reaching. I tend to agree with that, but I do believe that getting the press release out there is very foundational and it can be found. And I tell my clients, pay a little bit of the premium and it'll get sent to some influencers, thought leaders, that kind of thing. So I definitely recommend you check out PR Web in particular. Mondo Times is the best free media database. It's ideal for small businesses or startups that haven't the budget for a pricier tool. As she says, you can search for media outlets and build a list, pitch your news. It's organized by geographic regions, so you can see all the media outlets in a particular city or state. That's great. I think she's totally right on with that. I don't use that as much. I used to use Cision. I used to have a very expensive database, and I found that I just didn't use it that much. And it's not just because I don't do as much media pitching either. I just found that I had relationships with reporters after years, and kept up with them on my own pretty well. So it just became, for me, it became kind of redundant and a waste of money for me to have a big list. But Mondo Times is a great one to kind of fill in the gaps. This is one of my favorites. Best free source for media opportunities. It's Haro, Help a Reporter Out, Haro. It's a free subscription service, as she says, where reporters post queries looking for sources. I have pitched stuff through Haro for years and gotten interviews with clients and myself even on these. Not always. Sometimes you work pretty hard writing a pitch to try to get the reporter's attention. You send it in. You never hear anything, nothing but crickets, and you didn't get it. But it's still a great way to increase your chances of getting some publicity for your organization or whomever you're working with, because the reporter is actually asking for expertise and asking for stories, and there you go. So I love that, because so many times you're pitching reporters and they are so busy and they don't want to hear from you. So it's kind of nice. She says the best research tool is Google. I do the same thing. I've got friends who, it's so funny, even if they're not researching anything particular, maybe they're just wanting to, how do I do this or how do I do that? And in a sweet way, I finally got where I just say, last name's Greenwood, not Google. Check it out. Best social media listening tool. She likes Talkwalker. I don't know anything about that. I've not used it. I will look into that. I like to learn new things, and I'm learning one now. And she's got several other things here. I'm just going to scroll through here and make sure. She likes Zoom for free conference calls, by the way. And I think with the current situation with the world being on lockdown and virus mitigation, that there's going to be a lot more free conference calls going on. So those are some great tips from Michelle Garrett. She is also a PR consultant and writer at Garrett Public Relations, and there's links to her Twitter and all that. And Michelle, thank you. So I hope those tips are helpful to you as you are trying to get the word out about your product, service, or organization. Looks like that's last call for the happy hour here in the virtual lounge. I hope this cocktail of tips, news, advice, etc. was useful to you. Of course, if you need more information, be sure to visit us online at prafterhours.com. You can always follow us on Twitter. We're at OursPR. And don't forget, if you have a question for me, I want to hear it. I'd love to play the message on the show and answer it for you. All the instructions are in the show notes. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it's kind of fun. So please think about doing that. I'd love to hear your voice and try to answer your questions about PR, marketing, management, productivity, etc. Hey, I can even give you my favorite cocktail recipe. Don't forget also, you can support the frequency and value of this show. Please consider being a sponsor. Just check the show notes for information on that. And if I may, I'll rattle the virtual tip jar for you and just say that even if you can't sponsor the show, but you want to keep it going and encourage me, please feel free to throw in a few bucks. It's not a big deal at all. Just again, check the show notes. Okay, I got to wipe down this bar and get things cleaned up. Join me again soon for PR After Hours, your virtual PR cocktail lounge.